with what you
Okay.
got, Paul.
All
And
right. I'll
let me make sure
start
you
the
can share, bro.
sharing process. Okay.
There you go.
All right. So I'm going to show you a couple layers. These are going to be good for anyone out there that thinks Charlie Kirk is still alive. And what I'm going to show you
Wow, look
won't,
at the
won't
verticals. Look at all the verticals in this and the right
right.
angles.
Yeah. Um, this is going to be kind of convincing, really. Let's start at the top here. This is his death. Um, I'm blanking. Okay, his death to preserve in yellow his life. And then he is alive. His death, illusion. His death, faked in the green. We have the evidence. We have the escape or to be smuggled, threatened and blackmailed. And this is this only appeared one time. That's some letters there. Samic, het, tet. Those aren't easy statistically to find right there. Okay, so the escape or to be smuggled, threatened, and blackmailed. He went. The hay starts he, and the hay starts went. Let's see. His death and the word trick right there. He is he is hidden from foreigners. Pretty cool so far, right?
Very interesting
um,
and
this
very
is
plausible too. I mean, this is actually a theory that is
yeah,
out there. Because
right, right.
listen, this whole thing is so absurd, you guys, that people go down all these trails, rabbit trails, and try to figure out because obviously an op has been run in front of us, right in front of our eyes, right? And it's
Yeah,
the reason.
it might be what by turning point. All those people are acting so weird. Maybe they're not really guilty. Maybe they're just covering up the whole witness
It
protection
could be
program
very
thing. Yeah.
plausible that they're all actors. I mean, Candace Owen just come out with some stuff that shows that she was actually involved in some, not just connected to Camp Huachuca and all the intelligence community, but a movie about subversion and overthrowing, anyway, it's very bizarre. A lot of this stuff that's coming out. So this
Right.
is plausible. Yeah.
All right. Just to back up slightly, he is hidden from foreigners, witness protection program. Um, I've heard that it could be called Operation Valhalla. And this is a good time to show you the verse right here. Jeremiah 36:19. Then said the princes unto Baruch, Go hide thee, thou and Jeremiah, and let no man know where ye be.
Very good connection.
Uh,
Yeah.
Pretty significant spot right there.
Yeah. That's very good.
Um, okay, and I mentioned Valhalla. I'm going to show you another layer right after this, with Valhalla being the star. Um, what we have here is trap crossed by door. Actually, door here. If you want to go vertical, trap, door, and there's also trap, door on the same line. Um, this is will flee in the blue, and then in the white is beneath. So will flee beneath trap door. Um, on the same line is he went. This is Kirk with Charlie starting here. Charlie, Kirk. And on that same line is the escape or to be smuggled. Um, and the brown here is staged. And then in the white is illusion, staged illusion. Um, we have threatened going this way, threatened asset crossing Charlie. Let's see, there's shot from transponder, and then there's transducer. I'm not really up to date on my electronic devices, but I looked this up, and for those that think there's the exploding microphone theory, a transducer can be a microphone. Transponder could be a speaker. So there's some electronic shenanigans probably involved. There is in the red here remote, and crossed with the in the black control. So remote control operation all on that line there. This word here is inside, so I'm thinking inside trap door. My imagination, I've always noticed that trap door that was on stage, and I'm wondering if that had anything to do with what happened. Um, in the theory, I'm not saying this happened, but I can see that if he fell over and everyone gathered around him, and they might have had him go into the trap door and then uh, shoved up a dummy or a mannequin, maybe, and carried the mannequin to the car and to the hospital. I don't know. That's my imagination, but interesting enough, though. Um, I don't want to add to the table my own imagination. Let me
No,
stop
no,
sharing this.
sometimes
And
it takes imagination to get to an interpretation. You know what I mean? You have to kind of
yeah,
think
yeah,
the different scenarios, and that's what I mean by rabbit trails, right? And when you're searching things,
right,
sometimes
right,
you got to go through all the rabbit trails and eliminate them. What is
right.
more probable? What is not probable? Right?
Exactly, exactly. That's how you come up with terms, I guess. Okay, so this is the same verse. I'll just redo it to freshen everyone's mind. Jeremiah 36:19. Then said the princes unto Baruch, Go hide thee, thou and Jeremiah, and let no man know where ye be. Okay. So that's this verse here. And that's the right where Valhalla is. Now, I'll show you some terms. Actually, let me show you this the orange one here too. It's just a little snippet of a verse. Um 430 Jeremiah 4:30. It's right here. They will seek thy life. That's what I highlighted. So they will seek thy life. Okay. This is the word, if this is regarding in the plain text, regarding where he is hidden. This word, it's amazing. It's banished to a faraway location. That's the definition of this red term here. And I have heard there's a place in New Zealand called Valhalla. And as the rumor goes, he's banished to an island called Goat Island. Goat Island. Um, Hidden. It goes this way and crosses right here with the Samic. That's right on the same line as Valhalla. Okay, we have Kirk and Charlie Kirk, hidden. This is remote location. Okay, location, and this is location again, heading straight up here to Valhalla again. And then we have new crossed by Zealand, like that. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing and go to one more layer for you. Let's see. This layer I'm going to call the funeral. I don't know if any of you have seen any videos online of the so-called funeral that Charlie Kirk had, where Erica was crying over the coffin, and they were putting the coffin into a hearse and driving off. Um, Let me show you a verse to begin off with here. First Kings 2:26. The part that I highlighted was this: I will not at this time put to death. And then it goes on to mention the ark. That's significant because the word for ark in Hebrew can also be a coffin. So I will not at this time put thee to death, and ark, and then his coffin right here. Someone has their microphone open. Okay. All right. So uh, this term right here is the funeral, 7 characters long, skip of 8. Of course, it's the only one time it appears in this matrix. The funeral. And our thought is that he's not really dead and it's a fake funeral. So let's go up top here. We have Charlie, we have Kirk, we have He Is Alive right here. We have staged illusion, acting in blue. Going down here, we have the illusion. And then we have To Trick, a man of Israel, Benjamin. And it's sharing here with a doll or a mannequin. Let me move this over a little. So a doll or a mannequin. This is rubber. His body, a doll or a mannequin. Again, a doll or a mannequin, right on the same line as illusion. This is dead body or corpse. This is mannequin spelled another way. Okay, right here, over Erica Kirk's name is His Coffin in brown. His death, crying. So she was video crying over his coffin. On the same line as the funeral here is mannequin or a doll right here. And his death, faked. We have wax. So any mannequin is rubber or wax, I suppose. And then they paint it up. So I looked up makeup, and that's in white here. The 5 letters in white here. Makeup. And then in olive is makeup artist. There's a word for a makeup artist in Hebrew. So makeup and makeup artist are both on the same line here. A mannequin or doll right there. So that's all pretty interesting. This here, I highlighted. This has nothing to do with the fake funeral, but it's a descriptor of Erica Kirk. Anything around here that describes Erica Kirk, I like to point out to everyone because it is her personal table. One characteristic of Erica Kirk is she wears a lot of mascara, right? So in the plain text right here is she makes her eyes, she enlarges her eyes with painting right there. So that's kind of a descriptor of Erica Kirk. I thought I'd throw that in there. Okay, I am pretty much done for now.
And
Till next week.
that's pretty interesting proximity too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So are
All
you
right.
working on Camp Huachuca stuff?
I hope that'll be ready for next week. Yeah. Egyptian plains, Fort Huachuca,
Very
things
good.
like
I'm seeing
that.
a lot of information
Maybe
on that
even,
now.
yeah.
It's
All right.
crazy the connection with all this stuff. It's insane. All right, so moving on to Iran. I mentioned this last week. Talking about this tandem operation going on with the United States and Israel. If you don't know, in 1979, Iran, formerly known as Persia, was overthrown by the Islamic Revolution, and the Shah of Iran, who was Christian at the time, and sympathetic to Israel, was overthrown. Well, 47 years later, which is now in the 47th president, who has also been deemed Cyrus the Great, the Persian king, right? We see all these things coming together in a crazy, crazy way. It seems very biblical and very prophetic. Um, we're about to see that happen, you guys. So I've transitioned from what I was doing a study in to taking a look at this. I do have a code. I'll just give you a let me give you a sneak peek before we get started. Here's what we're going to be looking at, which is the fall of Iran and all of this that we have in here. But before we do, let's get familiar with what's going on in this. So I have a couple of clips to show you guys. Let's start with Reza Pahlavi, who is the crown prince. This is the guy that America is going to install. America in Israel, you guys. He is going to be in there as the king of Persia, right? 47 years after, almost a jubilee, which is also in the table, almost a jubilee since all this happened, right? Let's listen to Raza first, so you'll know who we're talking about. This is the crown prince. He is the son of the Shah. When the government was overthrown 47 years ago, his father was king of Persia.
Government of Iran. It is a hostile occupying force that's hijacked our homeland. After invading 5 neighboring countries and sowing chaos across the region, this regime has invaded Iran itself, using foreign terrorists, Hezbollah fighters, Iraqi militias, and other mercenaries to slaughter the Iranian people. This is no longer mere repression. This is foreign occupation wearing clerical robes.
Ay, ay, ay.
Just as Saddam Hussein drowned the marshes in blood, and Bashar al-Assad turned barrel bombs on his own children, Ali Khamenei and his thugs have committed mass crimes against the Iranian people and against all of humanity. And just like those other tyrannies, the Islamic Republic will fall. Not if, but when. The world must hear this clearly. The battle in Iran today is not between reform and revolution. It is between occupation and liberation. And the Iranian people have already chosen their side. Their heads are bloodied, but unbowed. Yet the cost has been heartbreaking. The people of Iran are being slaughtered in the streets and in their homes by a regime that shows no mercy. More than 12,000 Iranians were massacred in 48 hours.
All right, let me just start. Let me just say here, because you got to be unbiased when you're looking at information. There's no indication there are 12,000 people have been killed. This seems to be an inflated number. It's more accurate to be around 3,000. But this is expected when you have a Mossad and the United States kill chain, because just like 9/11, just like Pearl Harbor, okay, they always want to have a death count. You got to be horrified to be able to go to war, to want to go to war. You got to be infuriated. So if people are dying, you're more likely to go to war for the injustice. So there has to be deaths, right? Sometimes those numbers are inflated. That's what it seems like to me, which is going on. Not that 3,000 people is not a high number, but 12,000 is just egregious. It's absurd amount of people. That's what they're telling us. The numbers look more around 3,000 people. Okay. So That indicates to me that something is going to happen from the United States, because this is the pattern that's happened before. America comes in, we're the savior. Trump declares himself as the savior of the world, right? Mossad, and by the way, it's more than several hundred that are on the ground right now doing the groundwork, and then the United States forces will come in. And by the way, they're just about 5 days out from being in the region. We're talking about the Abraham Lincoln Carrier Group that's on its way to the Mediterranean right now. We're about 5 days from that, okay? And we will have a very strong presence in the Middle East, okay? This is going down.
Every 14 seconds. Khamenei's killers even hunted the wounded protesters in hospitals and executed them in cold blood. The regime collected piles of bodies with dump trucks and forced worried families to search unlabeled body bags. They refused to
All right,
return
so this
bodies
is Reza Pahlavi, and he has been, matter of fact, the reports are coming out with some of the social media assets from Assad that the national television waves were hijacked by anonymous and pro Reza Pahlavi videos were played on air repeatedly over and over again. Okay. Let's go to Jimmy Dore now, who has been putting out some phenomenal information here the past couple of days. Actually, before we go to him, because I got an article to read to you, let's see this brother who just put this out today, David Hooksteed, about the force that is going to the Middle East, since I just spoke of that. We'll go there first.
And we have some major news as U.S. fighter jets rush to the Middle East, rush towards Iran as a massive military buildup continues. And that includes an aircraft carrier strike group that is also on the way to the region. This comes after the Iranian dictatorship massacred its own civilians and President Trump drawing a red line saying that we will be hitting back. There will be severe consequences. It looked like we were going to strike on Wednesday night. President Trump decided to back off that, now appearing to favor, instead of a limited one-off strike, a massive campaign with the intention of bringing down the Islamic regime and the dictatorship of the Ayatollah. So now we have U.S. fighter jets in the air as of me filming this. So I'm going to break down exactly what we know, what is likely going to happen, where we go from here. This is information you're not going to hear anywhere else. For those of you just watching me for the first time, my name is David Hookstead. I love breaking down geopolitics, war movements, military buildup, what it means. So thank you very much for joining. Before we get started, please make sure to like and subscribe. Totally free, cost you nothing, huge boost to the channel. Comment with your thoughts below. What do you think it means that we have fighter jets in the air? Do you think the United States government and President Donald Trump will launch a massive campaign against the dictatorship? Let me know in the comments below. Hit that notification bell, all notifications turned on. You won't miss a thing. Instagram, David_Hookstead, XD Hookstead. That's where you can find me on social media. Please give me a follow on both sites. My DMs are open on both sites. If you have a tip, I want to hear it. Now let's get into it. We are in a very fluid and rapidly developing situation when it comes to Iran. Like I said at the start, all signs pointed to us bombing Iran earlier in the week. Ultimately, President Trump made the decision to pause whatever action he was initially going to take in order to rush assets into the region. Iran briefly closed its airspace, fearing a U.S. strike was imminent. Then on Saturday morning, what would be Saturday morning here in America, it'd be later in Iran, there were reports of massive booms, massive explosions. People took that and ran with it on social media. The truth of the matter was no attack was underway. I repeat, no attack was underway. That was not true. What people were hearing were these sonic booms of Iranian fighter jets that had taken to the sky to patrol the skies, fearing that U.S. aircraft were coming on Saturday then. Why did they fear the U.S. aircraft were coming on Saturday? You always want to strike on the weekend when the markets are closed. When we did Operation Midnight Hammer, we did it over the weekend. We did it on a Saturday when the markets were closed. So that is why Iran's jets went up. People mistakenly believe that those loud sonic booms could have been attacks, but the airspace over Iran is being patrolled by MiGs and old F-14 Tomcats. Well, now I'm going to put this here on the screen for you. Now the United States is rushing fighter jets into the region. This comes from Mensch Osnit. It says 4 United States Air Force KC-135 Stratotankers are towing 12. Now, they're not actually towing. What that means is they are there to keep refueling the F-15s, are towing 12 F-15s to the Middle East. These are most likely reinforcements linked to Iran. So as of me filming this video, we have a dozen F-15 fighter jets, United States Air Force fighter jets, that are surging and speeding into the region, into the Middle East for whatever is coming with Iran. Now, it's worth noting that we are being public about this. These planes' transponders are not off. We want the world to know, we want the Iranians to know that these planes are coming. This is part of a psychological warfare game. These are the planes you can see. Now, these are the planes you can see that are, these are the fighter jets and tankers you can see that are rushing to the region. You got to ask yourself, what aren't they seeing? What does the public not see? Because I can guarantee you we have a hell of a lot more firepower than just 12 planes. So some further reporting here. This is from open source intel for U.S. Air Force KC-1 Stratotank.
Guys, I think one of the reasons why they're allowing the Iranians to see that we're bringing firepower there is because the Iranians, the leadership is going to scurry like cockroaches, and they're identifying each one of them for a kill chain. That's going to be coming to my point here in a minute in the code.
Tankers are ferrying, that's a better way to say it than towing, 12 F-15 fighter jets towards the Middle East. So again, we are being open about this. We are not trying to hide this. We are letting the world know, hey, we've got F-15s on the way. Be aware. And then right here, it says one of the 12 U.S. Air Force F-15s deployed to the Middle East has popped on the exchange from the 48th Fighter Wing based at RAF Lakenheath, UK, United Kingdom. Now, I'm going to put this up on the screen next. It says U.S. military airlift. This also comes from open source intel. U.S. military airlift operations to the Middle East is in full swing. We should be seeing a lot more of this over the next week. Trump is not playing around. So we are going to continue to surge aircraft and fighter jets into the region for whatever strikes are coming against Iran. Now, when are those strikes going to happen? I do not see them happening on a weekday.
All right, so I think the code has a little more information on when that's going to happen. I'm going to share that in just a moment. Let me read to you this article coming from Forbes. United States Navy USS Abraham Lincoln CVN-72 has been ordered to head to the Middle East in response to escalating tensions between Washington and Tehran. You guys, this is no joke. This is a lot of hardware that is going there. Okay, lots of hardware. That's basically a floating city right there, but it's not the only ship. There are several ships that are with this strike group. U.S. Abraham Lincoln departed San Diego in late November 2025 with almost no fanfare, nor did the Department of Defense announce where the CVN-72 would be deployed. There was speculation that the carrier would be deployed to either Indo-Pacific or the Middle East. The regions were where the Nimitz was. The Nimitz has been removed from the Mediterranean, and the Abraham Lincoln is going to replace it. It will take about a week for the Abraham Lincoln to
Jonathan,
yes.
We're not here. We're not seeing anything on your screen. And
Really?
you're kind of breaking up.
Okay,
Yes.
let me share again. Are you guys seeing this? Can you guys see this?
Now we can.
It will take about a week
Now
for
we
Abraham.
can see it.
It will take about a week for the Abraham Lincoln strike group to transit from Indo-Pacific to the Middle East, and it's about 5 days out, you guys. The supercarrier with the embarked carrier Air Wing 9 operating A-18E Super Hornets, EA-18 Growlers, E-2D Advanced Hawkeyes, some Seahawks. Surface combat combatant element includes the Arleigh Burke class guided missile destroyers, U.S. Spirits, the Michael Murphy, and the Frank Peterson. The Navy Fast Attack Nuclear Power Submarine typically operates with the CSG, but is identity usually not disclosed for operational security. While the carrier is not essential for offensive operation, its presence in the Middle East would send a clear signal of deterrence to the allies. I don't think it's just a deterrence, you guys. I think that Donald Trump is definitely flexing his muscles. He is not playing around. He is absolutely going to go in there, and I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think it's going to be like we saw in Venezuela, because there's no, he's not been indicted for crimes. So this is my opinion based on what I'm looking at. I think they're just going to go in there and just take them out in an attack that will take out all of the military heads and all the strategic things that need to take out. Communications, military, aircraft, all of that stuff will be taken out, and then they will insert Reza Pahlavi into the government. And then it looks like he's going to go to Cuba next. So we are definitely looking at a president who believes that he is the savior of the world, you guys. All right. So Jimmy Dore, I love this guy. He does a lot of controversial stuff, and I've been following him, not just him, but several others. They're basically bringing the same thing out, and I love just how they do it. So this is interesting here. Let me show you this first, and then we'll move on.
Not only arms to the Iranian protesters, but they're marching side by side with them. The Mossad is. Do you have time to cover this? Do you need to go?
What do you mean Mossad is helping the Iranians? It doesn't make sense, Jimmy. Doesn't sound like something they do.
So this is from the Times of Israel. Right-wing Israeli TV report fuels rumors that Israel is supplying arms to protesters. So a reporter for Israel's right-wing Channel 14 hinted, he did more than hint, that Israel was supplying arms to Iranian protesters, sparking an outcry in Arabic media and even prompting Iran's foreign minister to seize upon the report and accuse Israel of trying to foment war between Iran and the U.S. No, oh, imagine our chagrin. Channel 14, which...
Guys, I told you last week that Israel was on the ground already, paving the way for Trump to come in and mop it up as the hero, right? They're doing all the groundwork. There's hundreds and hundreds of Mossad assets and commanders in Iran or Persia that are causing all this to happen.
Which is seen as close to Prime Minister Netanyahu said in an unsourced report Tuesday that foreign actors were arming the regime. So here it is. Tonight, we published in the main edition of Channel 14, foreign elements are arming the protesters in Iran with live weapons, and this is the reason for hundreds of dead among the regime's people. Anyone is free to guess who we're talking about. So, of course, he's talking about Israel and the Mossad, and hits us from the cradle. The cradle says that here is footage that shows a highly trained group of individuals preparing an attack in Iran on Thursday, January 8th, loading weapons, concealing firearms under clothing, and using satellite communications believed to be linked to foreign intelligence agencies. Okay, so let's watch a little bit of that. So here they are. So there they are unloading the satellite system of communication right there. There they are, terrorists with a rifle. Here's some more. Terrorists with a submachine gun. Okay, here is terrorists with a Kalashnikov rifle. Terrorists preparing. Here's terrorists hiding weapons underneath his jacket. And then here's a terrorist distributing equipment and ammunition. And then here they're going to show you one using the satellite.
I love how he's using the word terrorist. These are assets, Mossad assets that are doing that.
Satellite system coming up right over here. So there it is, satellite radio communication system. There they are. You can see it. And then they gave orders to initiate attack and came through the satellite. Another terrorist. So there it is. And our friend over at Going Underground, Israel media admits that Mossad owned some of the most radical protesters in Iran with weapons who then opened fire on Iranian security personnel and caused hundreds of fatalities. Israel's involved in regime change campaign in Iran. It's not a conspiracy. It's a fact. And here is one last little piece of video. This is from Colin Powell's chief of staff, Colonel Wilkinson, and here's what he had to say.
And let's not forget what he's doing right now. What they've been doing, they being Mossad, principally, but CIA and MI6, all backed by Donald Trump and his money. What they've been doing in Iran is acting as if they were Iranian citizens and killing Iranians and burning and pillaging and plundering. It's 1953 against Mohammad Mossadegh on steroids and on high technology provided mostly by the United States and Israel. That's what this protest in Iran has been all about. There have been some genuine protests, no question about it. Inflation's high, bread's not very cheap, you can't hardly get along if you're an average Iranian. But their ire is not so much with their government as it is with the IRGC stealing their money and with the sanctions, which almost any Iranian on the street will tell you is the first reason they're having trouble. So what we did was send Kermit Roosevelt, the latest version thereof, into Iran, and he failed. And now we're looking at the results of that failure, and God only knows what's going to happen now.
So even Trump's CIA director from his first term, Mike Pompeo, he says, Happy New Year to every Iranian in the streets, also to every Mossad agent walking beside them. I mean, they just say it right out loud. So go ahead. How would you like to respond to that? It's obvious to me that this is a Mossad CIA operation, and go ahead.
All right, you guys, I told you guys last week, and ever since Netanyahu came to Miami, this has been like common knowledge all around here in the conversations. And I don't know what he said. I wasn't at the synagogue when he was there. I don't know what he said, but it seems like all the Jews know what was going on and are for it. Because, remember, I told you that it's prophesied in the Talmud that right before the Messiah comes, all right, that Persia falls. All right. So they see that. And also they see Trump as a Cyrus figure. The Jews are going crazy about Trump, you guys. And not only that, the Persians too. And I told you last week also, I've got several friends I've met over the years and I'm in contact with that are Persian. They do not refer to themselves as Iranian. They do not, they're not even Muslim. One is a Zoroastrian, but I've met, Christian and Jewish people from Iran. So these are the ones that are working as assets with Israel to overthrow this government, you guys. And Trump he's the one that's going to do it. He is the one. All right. So let me go to this next one, and I'm just playing just a segment of each one. This is another one by Jimmy. This has also got a CIA asset, a retired asset agent, speaking in this one.
And we're only getting the Israeli side. Right.
The Israelis are backing Reza Pahlavi. The Israelis are backing these so-called human rights organizations. The Israelis are the ones demanding that U.S. policy be that Iran doesn't have any missiles. So we just have to be very careful.
Let's talk about Iran, because there's a lot of reports coming out that Iran is killing their protesters. And somehow, even though it took over a year for the United States to get an accurate count of how many people died on 9/11, then in 5 seconds, they've got an accurate count of how many people are being killed in Iran. But here is Iraqi Christian Foundation says there is no difference between the Iraq war and the current U.S. drive towards war with Iran. Just as with Iran, starvation sanctions were used against the Iraqi population for many years, pre-2003. Western media pushed the same propaganda about Iraq's government pre-war. Neocons became obsessed with Iraq to an evil degree for decades, and terrorists were trained by the CIA to infiltrate and terrorize Iraq pre-war. The Chaldean Catholics being the terrorist first targets. Another forever war may start soon, no different than previous forever wars, something Donald Trump promised he wouldn't let happen. And of course, that's exactly what's happening. And I just want to, real quick, from the gray zone, Western media is whitewashing deadly riots in Iran, relying on U.S. government-funded regime change NGOs. NGOs are non-governmental organizations. So here's the former CIA agent John Kiriakou. He's going to let us know that when they tell you that the Iran is killing their own people right now, and that's being used as the reason why we have to go in, because we care about the Iranian people. That's what this is all about. We really care about them, just like we care about the Venezuelan people, just like we cared about the Syrian people, just like we cared about the Iraqi people, so it's all a big yank. It's the same stupid story. And so here's what John Kiriakou has to say, where they're getting their numbers from. Listen to where they're getting their numbers from, the U.S. media.
Times, CNN, the Wall Street Journal. I looked at them all last night, and they're all saying, oh my God, it's murder in the streets in Iran. Oh my God, this human rights organization is saying, 172 dead. Okay, that human rights organization is based in London, and it's funded by the Israelis and Iranians in exile. And then, oh my God, there's this other human rights organization that's saying 500 dead. Yeah, that one's in Washington, and they take money from the CIA. So you can't.
So there's no reliable information.
There's no reliable information. Now, are people being killed in Iran? Absolutely, yes. But think of this too. Do we know that these people aren't being killed by Israeli-backed protesters? Because the Israelis have been bragging over the weekend that they're the ones backing the protesters. And I'll add another thing that literally no one is reporting. Protesters set on fire 48 fire engines in Tehran. 48 fire engines, so that they cannot respond to fires.
Not only that, you guys, they also, I've got pictures of it and video footage, setting fires to their places of worship. No, I've never seen a Muslim do that. Muslims don't set their own places of worship on fire. All right.
Why? Because it's the Israeli-backed protesters setting shit on fire. And this is just to make it worse.
Now, the thing is, okay, so for people who are listening and are thinking, okay, John's being conspiratorial and blah, 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 let's not forget that we know that Iran is riddled with people on the Mossad payroll because of the fact that, they provided the targeting information for the Israeli-U.S. military attacks against atomic scientists and military sites in Iran recently. Right? We know that. We talked about here on the show before any of these protests started about how Iran has a serious Israel problem in terms of infiltration. So I just want to, provide a little context there.
Yeah,
and again, I've heard this from, I believe, credible sources. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, not in the thousands, hundreds of of Mossad assets and commanders that are on the ground. They're creating this whole thing. All right.
Well, I think my point here is to remind everybody that there are two sides to a story.
Right.
And we're only getting the Israeli side.
Right.
The Israelis are backing Reza Pahlavi. The Israelis are backing these so-called human rights organizations. The Israelis are the ones demanding that U.S. policy be that Iran doesn't have any missiles. So we just have to be very careful.
So here's one of the things they're not reporting. Western media has ignored a growing trove of video evidence showing terrorist tactics deployed across Iran by protesters, described by Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch as largely peaceful. So, of course, here's one more. Recent videos published by both Iranian state media and anti-government forces reveal public lynchings of unarmed guards, the torching of mosques, arson attacks on municipal buildings, marketplaces, and fire stations, and mobs of armed gunmen opening fire in the heart of Iranian cities. Instead, Western media has focused almost exclusively on violence attributed to the Iranian government. And so, who are they?
You know what, you guys, if you're going to make an egg, you gotta break some. If you're going to make an omelet, you got to break some eggs, right? That's the mentality.
They're relying.
That is the mentality there, right? So it is absolutely 100% being driven by Mossad and United States assets to overthrow this government, because it would, according to Trump and Israel, it would behoove everyone involved, just lost my place here, to do so. Sorry, you guys. I'm trying to navigate my computer and it's running slow. There we go. Back to the, nope. Went too far. Hang tight, you guys. Maybe try to close that out.
The guards, the torching of mosques.
All right. I lost it. All right, so let's just move on to Redacted. Here's what Redacted said with Clayton and his wife over there. If you guys ever seen this channel, this is one of my favorites, Redacted. Oh, come on, you internet, you.
It is clear that Israel is calling the shots for a war with Iran. We have two conflicting
Come on.
stories from major news outlets. What they have in common is that it's Netanyahu who continues to make the decisions here, not President Trump. Now, before we get excited, it's worth remembering that the last time that Trump and Netanyahu promised not to bomb Iran, they turned around and did it. So we can't pretend that they're not bluffing this time. It would be a fool me twice situation on our part. Here's what the major reports are, and then we're going to break them down. The New York Times is reporting that Netanyahu has now asked Trump not to bomb Iran. The reporting is that Israel is not ready to withstand the retaliation that inevitably would come from Iran. Now,
all right, so this is 2 days ago, and you remember Trump rescinded what he said, and this is one, I believe, one of the reasons is because the strike group, the firepower, hadn't gotten there yet. And also, I think they want to see the roaches scramble, because they're going to have a kill chain for each one of these leaders simultaneously. At one time, they're going to take them all out all at one time. That's my belief.
This comes right after the Washington Post reported this. They say that a few weeks ago, Israel sent a delegation to Russia to assure Iran that Israel does not intend to strike unless they are struck first. On its face, that sounds like reasonable de-escalation, but it's not, because at the very same moment, Netanyahu was in Washington prompting President Trump to strike Iran. So you see what's happening here. Israel is
It's psychological warfare, you guys. You never, anyway.
Pretending that they won't initiate the war on its own, so long as they can get the U.S. to do it for them. Now, why would Israel bother with this trickery? Mostly for the PR of it. Because of Gaza, they realize that they can't be seen as the continual aggressors, but that's clearly what they want. Here's how the Post puts it, that they want to desire to avoid being perceived as escalating.
All right, so this is why Mossad is the boots on the ground doing the dirty work, and Trump is going to come in and mop it up. He will be perceived as the savior of the world at that point. The Cyrus, right? Bringing back Reza Pahlavi, excuse me. They don't want to be perceived as the one that's aggressive here. So this is a clandestine. There's a lot of charades going on right now.
Escalating tensions. Not that they don't want to escalate. They don't want the perception. So if you can get your bitch, the United States, to do it for you, you're in the clear, right? But they really do want to escalate those tensions. Now, is Iran falling for this? According to the Post, they are not. Iranian officials responded positively to this Israeli outreach, but they are wary. Obviously, Iran believed that if the Israeli, I lost my place, assurances were genuine, they leave open the possibility that the U.S. would carry out attacks on Iran as part of a campaign between these two allies. So they know that these two, and by these two, it's the U.S. and Israel, are not to be trusted.
Yeah, let's bring in Larry Johnson, former CIA intelligence officer, now to dissect all of this. Great to see you, Larry. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, guys. Hey, let me just add. Actually, I have a bearskin hoodie and I've got 2 pairs of bearskin pants. They do work as advertised. So
fantastic! Thank you so much.
Do they ward off wolves? That's the real question.
Well, that's why I carry a sidearm. I'd recommend carrying, a nice 45 caliber, 1911.
Yeah, when you're walking. Yeah, exactly. I mean, these deer also come after you crazy too with the
and the elk.
Hey, yesterday I just want to point out, Larry, yesterday speaking to hearing from Colonel Douglas McGregor, he said, when asked about the intelligence back and forth, what's going on with these players behind the scenes, Israel getting busted and all of this on the streets of Iran, Colonel McGregor said, I'm not plugged into the intelligence community. There's one person that I trust, and that's Larry Johnson. If you want to get to the bottom of that, Larry Johnson is your guy. So guess what? Larry Johnson is on the show today. So Larry, you hear the New York Times, the Washington Post, with their stories. I got off the phone about 20 minutes ago from a source who told me that Israel got busted and that Putin was furious about this. It was really the behind-the-scenes work of Putin and some of the Middle East allies that actually stopped this from happening. What do you know?
Well, yeah, I think that's definitely part of the story. Let's go back to December 28th, Sunday, when Donald Trump's meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky. That day, an economic operation was launched, an economic attack.
And guys, just a couple of days later, on January 1st, Netanyahu was in Miami speaking.
On Iran, that fell a dramatic fall in the price of their currency. And the Iranian economy is small enough that an organization like the CIA working with Israel can basically spend some time in advance, buy up a large number of the currency of Iran, and then when you dump it on the market and sell it, the price goes through the floor. That sparked legitimate economic protests. But this was programmed by I believe by the CIA and by Mossad to start the fire and then bring in the kindling and the gasoline to pour on it. And the kindling and gasoline came from a variety of sources. You've got Kurds, ethnic Kurds that are in Iran, and they've got ties across border. They were being paid to commit acts of violence. They were given Starlink terminals so that they could be in communication with foreign assets that were directing them. Similarly, with the group called the MEK, the Mujahideen al-Khalq, they were designated by the United States as a terrorist group in 1997. Even though that group had existed since 1964, they were described as a Marxist Islamist group that carried out acts of violence against U.S. citizens and against Iranian citizens, both under the Shah and under the Ayatollah. Well, in 2004, the CIA lined them up, put them in a camp, trained them in Albania, and started using them to carry out terrorist attacks in Iran. And then in 2012, we finally took them off the terrorist list because they're no longer terrorists, they're our guys. And then out in western or in eastern Iran, you've got the Baluchis in Baluchistan. And they've had a long-term relationship with the CIA. I know that firsthand from one of my buddies back in 1980 when we were planning the rescue operation to try to free the U.S. diplomats that had been taken hostage at the embassy. One of
Yeah. I'm sitting here, you guys, I'm sitting here thinking about, man, Larry reminds me of another one of my friends, right? So Larry's retired from the CIA, but he's got a lot of information, right? Look where it says live from Florida. And he's got a, I guess a lot of people, for some reason, Mossad and everybody in the freaking world, because I meet people from literally a lot of places. I mean, Slovakia, Russia, Ukraine, from Israel, all in a very short area. And here's Larry coming in from Florida. There must be something about Florida.
the means of communications was from rugs that were coming from Baluchistan to a rug shop in Bethesda, Maryland, right behind my house on Wisconsin Avenue. It was called Parvizian. And the messages were hidden in those rugs. So what I'm saying is there's not just one ethnic group. You got a variety of ethnic groups that have had ties to these to foreign intelligence. They inflamed the situation. And the plan, I believe now, watching what has happened, the plan was that the government was going to be put into such a degree of chaos that when we launched the military strikes yesterday, then that would have brought the whole house down. Well, it failed. The operation to destabilize Iran started collapsing last Friday. The Iranian security forces, they discovered the Starlink terminals. Russia and China were helping them with electronic warfare countermeasures to block those. And as they started blocking those, the people stopped showing up in the streets. And the IRGC and the Bajis, they started cracking down on the ones who were carrying out violence against Iranians. So what happened yesterday was also, it was exacerbated by that Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Turkey both told the United States, you're not flying over our territory to do this. And I think part of that was pressure that the Russians was bringing on to all of them. Because
and I think this is why, you guys, that they're going to bring the Abraham Lincoln and the strike group right there into Israeli airspace and fly right over Jordan and Syria and go right in there and just dominate. They don't have to go over or even use Saudi Arabian American bases. They can do it right from the aircraft carrier. And I think Donald Trump is the kind of guy that's just going to do it anyway. He is not going to ask for permission. He's just going to do it.
What Russia knows is that it's now invested heavily in Iran, as is China. They're not going to let the United States attack Iran and just try to destroy it. Now, the other element.
So this brings another good, interesting point. That fact right there, because this is what makes it prophetic. The whole region, Gog and Magog, the whole region erupting into war. Right? Remember, Jerusalem becomes a burdensome stone, right? Israel becomes a burden. Israel becomes a thorn in the side of all these countries. It becomes burdensome. I think that we're seeing the prelude to all of this, you guys. I am not even kidding. And not only that, the fact that Donald Trump is moving aggressively as a builder to build the third temple. That should have some of you evangelical, Christian nationalists standing up and going, what? If you know your Bible, and I hope you do, you should be asking some questions here. What is going on, right? He's loved by the world. I said, he's loved by the world when he comes on stage. You understand what I'm saying?
45% of the daily production of oil in the world comes out of the Persian Gulf. Iran can close the Strait of Hormuz in a heartbeat. Once that's closed, all of a sudden, 45% of the oil that's out in the world no longer there. What does that do to the price of oil? It sends it into into space.
Gosh.
And this may be why. Let me just say this to Chris Ray, who just put out the American, the collapse of the petroleum dollar. This could be. So it's very plausible that this whole action will cause the Strait of Hormuz to shut down, because it is a very narrow strip of water where these tankers go through. They could easily shut that down in some kind of strategic way, or at least obstruct and cause, havoc in the economy. Just want to throw that out there.
But it would be good for Russia, because now the price of oil is $150 a barrel, but it's going to have a devastating impact on other economies, both in causing inflation and forcing industries to shut down. So this very complex picture, but this simplistic crap that was being spun in the West, that all we got to do is put enough pressure and the Ayatollah is going to flee to Moscow. Nonsense.
This episode is brought to you by Rumble Premium.
All right, so if you want to go check that out, I would encourage you to go look at the whole thing. A lot of good information. I've been watching all the pundits, like I said, the different people talking on these subjects, but also doing my own research, reading articles and looking at codes to come up with my own analysis. And it looks to me like this is a very serious situation. The access term I have is only encoded twice in all of the scriptures. Sorry. Here we go. The fall of Iran, or Iran will fall, is the access term. It's only encoded twice, you guys, and let me just show you that, because this is really interesting. It's only encoded twice. We're looking at one, but the difference between one and the other is only about 700 and some change. So both.
Jonathan.
Yes.
Can you fix your resolution? We can't see it very well at all.
Really?
Yes.
I wonder if that's got anything to do with.
That's an internet issue. I don't think there's anything Jonathan can do about that. But
yeah, I think
that might be
again, you guys, I told you I live in a high-rise compound with probably 4,000 people, and it seems like at certain times in the day it's fine, but at night when everybody's home, it seems like when everybody's on the internet, things are weird. And sometimes I can't even get on the internet. It's so bad. So maybe it's that. It got something to do with the traffic is slowing things down. Let me screen share again and see if this is any better. Can you guys see that any better?
Your loading screen is better. That seems a little bit better to me, but not 100%. But yeah, I would say that's better.
Okay, I apologize.
Legible at least.
So between 21050 and 20344. We only have about 700 and some change between the two terms. So it's encoded twice, fairly close to each other. At a marginal skip, 20,000 is very marginal. It's not extreme. It's not low, right? Right next to it, you guys, right now, I don't know what the resolution is now. I hope you can see it a little better. But right next to it, I got in these three letters, we've got the word death, which is kind of ironic. One of the mottos or the themes from Iran in the past 47 years was death to America and death to Israel. And then we have death right there next to Iran. We do have the name Trump here. So the fall of Iran and Trump do come together in this with a date. This date right here, Hey Tav Shin Pei Vav, is 2026 at a very small skip. I think it's a skip of 8 is the skip here. Mossad is in the orange right underneath that. Mossad is highly involved. Okay, so this little snippet right here in the plain text, this is why I said I think I know a date, because what it says here is B'chodesh HaAbib. So you guys, we're coming on the season of Abib right now. At Passover time, we will be in Abib. So it's because of proximity and because it's a smaller skip, it's in the plain text. So in the plain text, close proximity, it would see it if the methodology of the rabbis is correct, and we're going to test this theory. I'm not making any predictions, but if their theory is correct, then I would say we would see all of this going down within the new moon of Abib, or before the new moon of Abib, which is not far from now. All right, we're talking like I think it's end of March, maybe something like that. But I have to check. All right, so not far from now, which is kind of plausible considering the firepower, and it has to get to, that area, and that's 5 days from now. Then you got to consider the logistics of all of the intelligence, the tracking, all that kind of stuff to make a precision strike of multiple targets simultaneously takes a lot of planning, okay? All right, so check it out. We've got missiles here. Missiles here are 3 times, and no doubt we are going to see missiles, and no doubt we're going to see some from Israel, connected to Israel here. Israel is here 13 times, you guys. I thought that was kind of interesting how we see a condensed area in the middle of this where Israel is mentioned in the text 13 times. Israel. I mean, it's not like it's spread out over the whole matrix. You see what I'm saying? It's condensed in the middle there. That's kind of stands out to me. War is here twice in the plain text, and both have anomalies that seem to stand out. So like this, you got war here, but also a vertical anomaly in the plain text. We've got Hayam, which means the day or the days. Can be the day. But then going down, you got Jubilee. So the day of the Jubilee, with this whole situation with Iran, we're coming up on a Jubilee cycle. I don't know if it's relevant. It's just an anomaly that I saw when I happened, when I seen the word there, I kind of look in all of the anomalies. I look around for any kind of anything random or something that seems randomly stacked, maybe, which is a sense not really random, right? Especially when you see form to it, it seems to stand out. Like this right here, Pahlavi, which is Reza Pahlavi, is the crown prince of Persia. And again, we've got Lachodesh, same as up here, Bachodesh and Lachodesh. We're talking about the new moon time. So the fact that we have vertically Iran falls and his name, Pahlavi, excuse me, vertical together. It's also as an ELS right here in the white, connecting with war. So I believe he comes about because of whatever this thing that happens, this war, this conflict. And by the way, in Hebrew, this can also mean conflict. It can mean battle. It can mean war. It doesn't necessarily exclusively mean war. It's also here as an ELS, but his name is connected to that. And we also see Mossad down here in the orange. And for some other reason, I was looking at some of the texts that are here. The texts that are in this matrix are fairly, pretty interesting. This literally spans from Genesis all the way through the Bible, but by the time you get down to here through 2 Kings, we start getting into the prophets, Jeremiah and Isaiah, Jeremiah, and then Hosea, Jonah. Then we get into Psalms. There's Zechariah there. That's Psalms there. Psalms. Proverbs at this point. Proverbs. Then we're in Ecclesiastes, Esther, Nehemiah, Chronicles, and where's Daniel? Daniel is somewhere in here. How did I miss it? I saw it somewhere today. I was looking at this. Anyway, there's Daniel right there. So the text that runs through it are quite fascinating. So obviously we've got mostly ELS and plain text terms so far. I've only got a couple of partials of text going through line by line, and looking at each one of these takes a lot of time, but I kind of bounced around and pointed out a couple that seemed to stand out, like the timing and what it says here. This is actually in Daniel here, this fragment here. So let me read that to you before we close this part of the presentation out. This is actually Daniel here, 11, verse 3. All right, thinking about the fall of Persia, and we're talking about Persia here, Darius the Mede, the Medo-Persian. All right, so that's one context. We're talking about Persians, but also in the context of this table, and a mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. All right, now we're talking about a Persian king here of Persia. So I think it's a high probability that we're going to see Reza Pahlavi installed back into Iran, almost to a Jubilee cycle, by the acclaimed or proclaimed, at least by the Jewish people and some Christians, the Cyrus figure. There's so much connection here. It is just crazy. As I mentioned, he is really focused on things like the Nobel Peace Prize, and making sure everyone knows his statistics. Like, he has quashed 8 different wars, right? And yet he's been the most aggressive president that we've had. But he wants everybody to understand that he has squashed and put to peace 8 different conflicts in the world since he's been in office. And I got a soft place for him. Even me, I can see good in that. But also got to say, if you read the text and read what it says about the man, he's loved by the world. He does all these, good things. He does some things, but then he starts doing some bad things, right? Like proclaiming himself as God and all that. And it's not hard to see that transition from the man, okay? And we're not talking about a Christian. We're not talking about a Christian. He is a converted Jew. This man follows the Rebbe of Chabad, of Lubavitch. That's Schneerson, if you don't know. All right. The same thing that Netanyahu follows. So we're not talking about a devout Christian. And how can you, Jonathan, say these things? I'm just saying, pay attention, you guys. I'm just saying, watch and observe and read your Bible and see if you can't figure it out. We're seeing some things we've never seen before. And we're going to see. And this guy's going to take us places as a country that may not be pleasant. Like I said, this whole thing, and Chris has done some codes. He's seeing that there's possibility that the dollar bill, the petrodollar has an effect. Even the price of silver. He just put one out today about the price of silver. All right. That is very possible if something happens and it goes a little south. It doesn't go exactly as planned. Who knows? I don't know. We're speculating on that. But one thing's for sure, we're about to see some things go down. I think they're going to take the head off the serpent and put the shawl back in there, you guys. All right. That's all I got for you on that presentation. You got any questions or comments? No?
Nope.
Have you guys seen the news articles or any of the articles about, Trump and the Cyrus thing, especially with the Jewish people? That's very bizarre. The way they adore this guy is very much like exactly like a Messiah figure and a savior. And, from what I see, from just how he talks and carries himself, and the whole thing with the peace, the Nobel Peace thing, he wants two of them. I seen him make a comment about if Obama gets one, I should have two or something like that. So he's got one given to him, but he expects to be given one as a real recipient. Therefore, he has two and will be the only one to have two. For some reason, this is like a big deal for him. And to me, that screams egotistical kind of thinking. The other thing that stands out is he is very active with the Temple Institute and this whole Cyrus thing, where Cyrus was commissioned to rebuild the temple. He didn't actually follow through with that. Y'all actually commissioned him to do it. He paid for it. He didn't actually go and do as y'all said, but he paid for it. I think Donald Trump is going to be an even greater influence in this, which is going to embolden even more the religious Jews to proclaim him as a Mashiach, you guys. They're already doing that if you didn't know. They proclaim this guy as a Mashiach. And they don't see him as a Christian. They see him as a converted Jew because that's what he did. He converted to Judaism. The only way that his family and the Kushner family can marry is if that happened. Remember when Jacob went to Shechem and the whole rape of Dinah? And the only way that we can merge the two kingdoms is what? What did we have to do? Circumcise. Right? And follow our God. This is what you got to do. Well, the same thing was imposed on Donald Trump. To believe it or not. And he's not a religious person. I don't think he even believes in God, but he went through the formality because it was a marriage between two kingdoms, the Kushners and the Trumps. And boy, are they dominating right now. No kidding. Anyway, I do have the Cyrus Accords that I'm working on too. Just getting started on that. It's just really an act. I'll show you that, just what it looks like. This is when you first find something. This is with a row skip on it as well. The Cyrus Accords. So this will be a new one I'm working on, among others, as if it don't have enough to work on. You know, sometimes I write them down and later go and find them. Sometimes I find them immediately and just kind of file them and then come back to them at some point to work on them. But I'm sure you're gonna hear that term more often as we go forward in this. I mean, I've heard Pavlovi say it already about 3 or 4 times in reference to Donald Trump. The Cyrus Accords, right? So you've heard the Oslo Accords, the Abraham Accords, the Camp David Accords. Trump is going to have the Cyrus Accords. And you better believe he's going to expect a peace prize from that, Jack. Watch what I'm telling you. Watch if I'm not telling you the truth, he's going to hammer that and be demanding that the world give him a peace prize for all the peace that he's brought, because he's the savior of the world. Anyway, that's all I got. Anything else to add before I close this out, you guys? No? Really? All right. Well, I want to thank you for hanging out with me. And for you, Paul, and all your work that you're doing on your codes, brother. I want to encourage the rest that are capable of searching codes to continue to do so. Michelle, I hope we get whatever's going on with your computer. If you're not able to search right now, did you get that worked out, by the way, or are you still having trouble? You answering me in the chat, the text. Well, whatever. I hope you get it worked out. And you can continue. All right. Let me pray for it.